Part 0. The opening. What I'm about to tell you could put you in great danger, but it could also save your life. There's a truth to the idea that what you don't know can't hurt you. In this case, one might say that what you don't know is less likely to be able to hurt you. That's a chance I have to take. If you are the type of person who can be warned sharks exist without immediately diving into the ocean to try and find one, please keep reading. This is a story. I apologize for its length, and I'll divide it up into segments to make it an easier read. The story is necessary to give a context to a warning. You might want me to skip directly to the warning. I can't. It wouldn't make sense. You wouldn't understand the reasoning, and worst of all, the warning alone would leave you with too many questions, and you might start prying further and further. As they say, curiosity killed the cat. Specifically, curiosity has killed at least 4 people thus far, but I'm getting way ahead of myself. We must first begin with my personal story. Part 1. The Girl. I think we're all familiar with a game called Ocarina of Time. It was one of the most celebrated, beloved, and just plain good games of its time. Everyone was playing it, every video game news outlet was talking about it, and one of my first experiences online was joining a message board for an Ocarina of Time fan site. It's a game tons of gamers know inside out, and if there's one downside to knowing a game's inside out, there can be no surprises. As a matter of fact, there can always be surprises. In a situation I imagine is familiar to most of you, I was 13 years old, alone, playing in my living room, playing Ocarina of Time. I'd beaten it, I'd caught all the sculptures, I think I was missing a heart piece, but what's the time to call up game FAQs when there's zombies to mow down on your horse? Just in the peaceful night of skeleton smashing, and that's when I saw it. It was something that wasn't there before. No, something that was never there before. In the middle of a field, plain as day, an NPC I'd never seen in the game, just standing there, not moving. I was certainly surprised. Could it be? No, there's no way. That doesn't make sense. There's never anyone out here. Of course, Ocarina of Time was still new enough. There were plenty still off chances that this was an off in-game event. I did have the game nearly 100%ed. Maybe I unlocked something that no one else knew about, or no, maybe it's just a postman. It can't be though. It's not moving. It's just kind of floating. This was the point at which I should have shut off the game. But of course, I had to investigate. This was some never before seen game event. I had to go check it out. My excitement was tempered as I grew closer to this person. With every stride of my horse, it became increasingly clear that something was wrong. The NPC was a girl, with red hair and a white dress, suspended slightly off the ground. She was completely motionless, not even her hair or clothes idly animating in the breeze. Her feet were together, standing on nothing, and her arms were stretched far out to her sides. Of course, this image immediately called crucifixion to my young mind, which was somewhat unsettling. This wasn't helped by the fact that on closer inspection, the girl had no face. She had a little polygon for her nose, but no actual face texture. In fact, her white dress looked more untextured than intentionally white. The more I looked at her, the more she just looked unfinished. Polygons in the back of her legs were missing, allowing me to see right through them. Attempts to talk or interact with her were fruitless. Link and all the other objects just clipped through. At this point, I had come to the conclusion that she was just some bit of beta information the game had loaded up. I was big into digging up cool beta stuff from games, so this all started making sense to me. The game had spawned an unfinished NPC, probably in place of the postman. No big deal. This would have been another good point of mine to shut off the game. I kept playing, exiting and re-entering Hyrule Field. The girl was no longer there. I was already writing in my head the post I was going to make about this on the Ocarina of Time fan site board. This was the age where it was kind of thrilling to see a game goof like that, rather than just an annoyance. As the sun rose over Hyrule Field and the zombies fell away, I rode off to find more adventure. Dinner time was still hours away. But as I continued to play, the game started to change on me. The first thing I noticed was the loading. N64 games traditionally had almost no loading, but suddenly the game was getting hung up on transitions between areas that were made more than normal. Not by today's standards, but a 5-second wait on the N64 felt like an eternity. Second, when an area would load, the music wouldn't load with it. There would either be a period of silence and then the music would kick in. It wasn't always the right music either. The Hyrule Overworld was the most frequent to start playing, no matter where I was. The Gerudo Fortress theme came up a lot. Notably, whenever I went inside a house or shop, there would be no music. At this point, it just still seemed like I was experiencing some kind of ROM glitch. That changed when I decided to check out what music would play at the Kokiri village. The answer was none. No music played when I entered, and no music started no matter how long I waited. No ambient sounds either. That wasn't it though. Something else was wrong. There was no sound, but there was no movement either. All the Kokiri, upon closer inspection, were stuck in the same arms-out poses at Mystery NPC. They didn't move, or turn, or look at me, to speak to me, or anything. They just stared straight ahead, arms out. I couldn't even talk to them. The speak prompt appeared, but pressing it didn't do anything. Rather strangely, though they were all positioned roughly where they would be normally, the direction they faced was sometimes off. Some Kokiri were intently staring at a wall, or turned such while their arms clipped for the side of a cliff. It took a little time for me to register that the reasons they were all doing this, they were in fact facing a single location. The mystery NPC was back. She was hovering a little off the ground in front of Link's house. Every Kokiri was staring at her. This time she was different. She looked the same, but the moment I got near her, Navi started floating around her, indicating she was a real NPC. Trying to just walk up and talk to her didn't work either. The moment Link would get near her, he took damage and flew backwards. However, just being Ocarina of Time, I decided to try Z-targeting her and trying to talk to her from a few feet away. Immediately, my frame rate dropped to single digits as the sound effects went choppy. In addition to the opening dialogue box sound, a bunch of other weird sound effects seemed to be applying. High-pitched buzzing and what I think were to be some voice sounds from Princess Zelda. I was very certain the game was going to freeze, but it didn't. A dialogue box appeared and the girl said the following. "He's not moving anymore." What? Are you sad? Happy? I can't really tell. Looks like you're coming around. That's an unpleasant mask. Goodbye. And then the dialogue box closed. I heard a strange, high-pitched sound as the girl's maw began to shake in place. I ran. I left Kokiri Forest. This would have been a very, 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 very good time to turn off the game. But from this point on, the game became less and less stable. Doors and transitions between areas no longer went to a proper place. I believe upon leaving Kokiri Forest, I immediately appeared in a graveyard. That kid was there in the same arms out position. Talking to him made him say the same thing he always says. But only once. After that, he ceased to be targetable. I won't summarize the next half hour, partly because I don't remember it all. And partly because it was a lot of the same stuff. Nearly every NPC I encountered was in that arms out position. Those that weren't were still usually frozen in place, facing the wrong way or doing something outside of the ordinary. Enemies were either non-existent, failing to spawn I guess, or similarly frozen. I encountered some Tektites frozen in midair on Death Mountain, which damaged me if I touched them, but couldn't be hurt themselves. As time went on, the game just started falling apart. Whole textures or polygons would just be missing. Sound effects would play a few seconds after they were supposed to. Pre-rendered backgrounds failed to appear entirely, and finally, I was left in a black void. Well, No, not really. I was in the black void, but the location text said Marketplace. Apparently all textures and pre-rendered backgrounds had failed to load. No music, no sounds, other than my footsteps. The Marketplace NPCs were there, strangely now with their arms out as I'd come to expect. They were animated normally and could be spoken to. However, they all said the same thing, after which they would stop moving. Please look out for the princess. After talking to his NPC, the redhead scream sound started playing. The model of the girl with red hair appeared, and somewhere out in the void, without animating. The townspeople in unison turned to her, look at her. I think I lost control of Link at this point. The last thing I remember was him turning towards her with the other townsfolk. He may have started to walk towards her too. He let out a scream like he was being hurt. And I finally turned off the game. And that was that. I didn't play Ocarina of Time for a month, and when I switched it back on, there was no hint of oddness. Where's a simple ghost story? This is where it would end. My one brush for the paranormal. Sadly, that was far from the end. That was only my first experience with the entity we know as the princess. As for who we are, I'll get to that next time. Oh, and needless to say, there's no scrap model of a girl with red hair and a white dress anywhere in the Code of Ocarina of Time.